HQ presented by Enterprise. We asked Pete Prisco for a mock draft. He said, get lost. So we took out the HQ cattle prod, forced him to do it. He said, okay, I'll give you 5. So here's his mock. He's got the Commanders trading up to keep Caleb Williams in kind of those same colors. Washington getting Williams 1. The Bears getting Marvin Harrison at 2. Jaden Daniels to the Patriots. Drake Maye to the Falcons, who trade up. And Malik Neighbors to the Chargers at 5. We have Pete Prisco joining us from the Combine, along with Ryan Wilson. Brady Quinn is here as well. Pete, the first thing I have to ask you is this really what you think is going to happen, or are you just going for clicks here?
No, it's not what in fact, I think I've changed my tune on this since the day I sent it in on Monday, because I actually think if this played out that way and they traded for the pick, I think at number 2, I think the Chicago Bears would take Jaden Daniels, and they should take Jaden Daniels at number 2. So I kind of backed off this, but when I did it, I felt maybe they would trade the pick, keep Justin Fields, and then draft a wide receiver at number 2 and Marvin Harrison. And for Caleb Williams, you go up, you give up a couple second-round picks, maybe a third as well, to move up a spot and get a guy who's a hometown kid.
It's going to cost more than that when you trade up. But let me ask you a more important question. How far are you willing to trade down if you're Chicago Bears?
Well, if I traded to 2, I would take Jaden Daniels. That's what I would do. But, I mean,
would you move to 4, 5, or 6, depending on how sweet the deal was?
I would think about it. It depends on what you give me. I got to see what you're offering me.
And it sounds like Justin Fields is on his way out, so you have to have a plan there, too.
Right. But you can get something for him, too.
Okay, we got to make sure you have a quarterback's my point.
Right,
how far down are you willing to go before you...
I mean, if I traded to 2, I would probably... In this scenario now, if I did it, I would take Jaden Daniels.
I like it.
I think to answer your question, Ryan, it probably depends on how you view these quarterbacks. I mean, do you lump them kind of all together, and maybe they're not as far apart as it seems? You know, I mean, Pete, do you see Caleb as the clear-cut number 1? Or are you saying Drake Maye's right there, Jaden Daniels is right there? Is that why in your mind you've... I mean, look, let's be honest. We asked you to do a mock draft. You did only 5 picks, and you put so little thought into it, you've already changed exactly what you actually gave us to look at. So now we're in this hypothetical world. How far apart do you have all 3 of these quarterbacks?
I don't think it's that far apart, to be honest with you. I'm in the minority, though, Brady. I'm the one who doesn't sit here and think that Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes as he thinks he is. And so I think when you look at it, there's not that far apart. And so if you could get extra picks and trade down and still get a quarterback, that makes sense to me.
I'll repeat something that I actually agree with what you say. We don't know. It's going to be a crapshoot when you take these quarterbacks. We talked about that previously. So, right, he could not end up being Patrick Mahomes. He could end up being really, really good. So I'll ask the question a different way. Would you trade down to 8 or 9, let the Falcons move up, for example, get a draft haul, and take a J.J. McCarthy, for example?
No, I would not do that.
That's too far for you.
I would not do that.
Okay.
I would stay and try and get... If I'm trading Justin Fields, which it sounds like they will be, I would stay and try and get Jaden Daniels.
Okay, because I think Brady would agree with me, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but there's an opportunity for J.J. to be a top 10 pick by the time this thing all said and done.
I think he might be.
Yeah,
I think he might be.
I think he probably will be, but I think to the scenario that you presented there, Ryan, I don't know that Ryan Poles, the general manager for the Bears, passes up on an opportunity to take his quarterback in this draft class. And I think the other thing he has to be cognizant of is if he doesn't take Caleb Williams, and let's just play out this hypothetical scenario, because this is one of the things I've kind of thrown around a little bit and curious to see if this is one of the options, is if they did trade back, still traded Justin Fields, and then got picks for trading back and not taking Caleb Williams, if you take Jaden Daniels and it doesn't work out, you're now going to look like the team that also took Mitchell Trubisky where it didn't work out. They passed up on other quarterbacks in that draft class. Who knows how things would have been. That's kind of been the legacy right now of the Chicago Bears. So I don't know that Ryan Poles can trade out of the spot and not take Caleb Williams if he does believe he's the clear-cut number 1 quarterback in this draft class. If he's got him rated differently, completely different story. But I think at this point, you'd have to say, at least in my opinion, Caleb Williams is the number 1 quarterback in this draft class.
Guys, let's move down to the...
Yeah, go ahead. No, I agree with Brady. Pete still has some things to work out with Caleb, but I think you right now you agree he's number 1.
Well, he's the number 1 quarterback, but is there that much difference between 1 and 2? That's the question.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, well, let's move down to maybe 2 and 3, because then there's Jaden Daniels, who you had going to the New England Patriots, and then Drake Maye to the Atlanta Falcons. Why'd you have them trading up to number 4 to get Maye?
Well, let's start with Jaden Daniels, by the way. I want to say this. He's the most improved player I've ever seen in my entire life covering this National Football League. And I could say, though, with 100% certainty, being a Sun Devil and watching him at Arizona State and then watching his tape at LSU last year, most improved player in the history of doing this, which is high praise, by the way. I never saw it coming. Credit to the kid.
Yeah.
Credit to the organization at LSU for getting him to that. I think the New England Patriots need to solve their quarterback position. Mac Jones is not the answer. And then as far as going up to get Drake Maye, if you're the Atlanta Falcons and you're Raheem Morris, you have to find a quarterback. And what are your options? If you don't get Kirk Cousins in free agency, if you don't make a move of that nature, you have to draft one. I think going up to Drake Maye makes sense.
And by the way, 2009 was the first year Raheem Morris was a coach in Tampa. Do you know who he drafted with his first draft pick back then? Josh Freeman.
Yeah.
Now, exactly. So obviously it didn't work out for Josh, but if you take a Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye or whomever, the idea is that you now have a quarterback to go with all those playmakers. Desmond Ridder didn't work out. Taylor Heineke was a short-term solution. And I like Drake Maye. I don't love him. I think you maybe like him a little bit more than me, but at the end of the day,
I don't love him, but I like him.
I think, and I learned this lesson, and you were right about Justin Herbert. I was a little quick to get on Justin Herbert based on the offense he was in, and Brady, you talked about this at the time. I think that Drake Maye is going to be a better pro than he was in college, and I'm going in it as cautiously as I should have with Justin Herbert, waiting to see, because the athletic traits are certainly there. He's a smart guy, a great kid, and I think he has an opportunity to be better once he gets to the NFL.
So a few things here. One, Atlanta definitely going to take a quarterback. I don't agree with them trading up to 4, though. I think they trade up to 2. I mean, the reality of this is once, Chicago trades back, and they kind of give that up, you'd have to think that they would be willing to maybe go back a little bit further instead of taking a wide receiver in this mock draft that you've done. And Pete, I know you've already recanted the fact that this isn't even the mock draft we should be talking about, so hang with me here. I'd say this, though. You defended Will Levis last year because of the situation he was at in Kentucky, playing injured, not necessarily throwing to that many guys that could separate and get open. Drake Maye battled a lot of that this past season. I mean, he was always playing in shootouts. He had to carry this team. Didn't have as good of a wide receiver group out around him. And I think, to Ryan's point, he will be a better pro than what we saw from him at North Carolina. Even though he was highly productive, he had to be. And I think there's some people right now who are talking him down. I think this kid's going to go in and be an immediate starter. He doesn't have the arm strength necessarily of a Justin Herbert, but I honestly think he throws the football with better touch than Justin Herbert did coming out of Oregon. So Drake Maye is going to be up there with Jaden Daniels, but I think this draft's going to go 1, 2, 3 quarterbacks. I don't think any of these teams, if they want to take one of these quarterbacks after Caleb Williams at 1, can risk waiting around and just hoping and praying they get him, because I think there's Minnesota that could be, and therefore a quarterback, Denver as well. Obviously Atlanta, as you've already pointed out here, but I just don't think they can wait around. These guys are going to get eaten up.
In this mock draft, Pete has Marvin Harrison Jr. going 2nd overall to the Bears, who traded out of that 1 pick, and then a 2nd wide receiver going in the top 5 as well, Malik Neighbors, to pair with Justin Herbert in L.A. with the Chargers. Pete, I've been hearing some analysts say that Neighbors is a lot closer to Marvin Harrison Jr. than maybe we first thought.
Well, I agree. I think he's right there with him. I think it's really close, to be honest with you. I think he has more wiggle. You watch his tape, he's got the wiggle in the middle of the field. And you look at the Chargers, the one thing that doesn't show up on tape is speed. They're a slow team on offense. You have a guy with a big arm, and you don't have speed on the outside. Keenan Allen will be back. Mike Williams probably won't be. Quentin Johnson dropped a lot of passes. He's not a burner either. So you bring this kid in, all of a sudden you have a nice, fast weapon for Justin Herbert to build that offense. So Jim Harbaugh is going to run the football.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about.
What?
Why not an offensive tackle here if you're going to run the ball more?
Well, which tackle are you going to get here?
You get a right tackle, you get Olafashian, you get Joe Alt, and then you plug them in with the 2 guys you drafted.
Off, you're switching both guys to the other side. They're both going to play right tackle instead of left tackle, which is
Tristan Wirfs was okay when he was asked to move.
But I mean, still, it's not an easy move for everybody. And
you're right.
I think you need to get speed on offense.
And you're right also about Malik Neighbors being pretty close to Marvin Harrison Jr. And the other thing that I keep coming back to, as our buddy Rick Spielman walks into the shot there, he drafted Justin Jefferson 5th among all the wide receivers in that draft class, just behind Jalen Reagor, just before Brandon Ayuk. So you don't know how these guys are going to work out.
You don't know any of them. That's the whole part of the process.
Well, don't give away all the secrets, Pete. We want people to watch. And by the way, I want to say quickly to Hassel and Brady, they're making fun of you about the only 5-team mock draft. When Pete started 40 years ago, there were only 5 teams in the league, so he thought he was doing the entire mock draft. So give him a break.
And I love the fact that it's only quarterbacks and wide receivers.
I invented the mock draft. Never forget that. I invented the mock draft way back in the day.
We know that's not true, but I love how it's only quarterbacks quarterbacks and wide receivers like it's a 7-on-7 tournament too. Like you completely forgot about all the big boys up front and some of the defensive playmakers we've seen. I've got no issue with this at all, though. I think it makes a lot of sense as far as providing Justin Herbert a weapon on the outside, besides the fact that that's not necessarily Jim Harbaugh's MO. So I think the offensive line may make some more sense in this particular spot. But I think the comment about Neighbors being closer to Marvin Harrison, I'm with Pete. And Pete's got a lot of wiggle to his game, and Malik Neighbors does it well. So I would not be shocked whatsoever if Malik Neighbors doesn't end up being the best wide receiver out of this draft class. You put on the tape, you're really wowed with his production, his ability to separate, his ability to basically create big plays from wherever they get in the football. You see the same thing from Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I almost view this draft class at the wide receiver spot as 1A and 1B between these two. So a lot of value there. Someone's going to get a heck of a player, Malik Neighbors.
All right, Pete, so you did mock 5 draft. When is the next, I don't know, 6 through 10 coming out?
No, I'm actually going to do a mock draft probably in about a week or so. So you'll get one. Don't worry. It's just that Jack asked me to do it on Monday night. I'm not doing a full mock in 15 minutes, okay?
Pete, can I make one more request? Maybe next time you do it, too, hold to that one instead of saying you already wouldn't take Marvin Harrison at 2 and you don't like the trades and all that whole scenario. Can we stick to what
I didn't like it. I didn't like my mock. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. He doesn't like any of his, and he's done 50 of them.
Oh, boy. All right. Pete Prisco says he's going to do a full mock coming up in a week or so, but that was a little taste of his the top 5 that I guess he liked on Monday, but not on Wednesday. Pick 6 podcast. Brady just recorded one with Lige Douzable as well. Pick 6 today, brand new.